Hey guys, welcome back. It is Friday. Happy Friday. It's April 14th. It is 5 p.m. and we are back. We are going live today with Maayan Koschitzky. Maayan is a rock star winemaker right here in Napa Valley. He's originally from Israel in the Eastern Mediterranean, and so we're very excited to have him on today. Maayan is very decorated in terms of his winemaking experience. And so he's going to join us today and talk to us. Yeah, April 17th. I apologize. Friday, April 17th. Mine's going to talk to us about all things Atelier Melka, all things Lapel, all things that he's been doing since he's been established in the Valley. And so we're extremely excited to have him on. I see he's in the chat. We are going to try and make a connection and see how he's doing. I have some wine in my glass right now that I am sipping on. Some of my favorite. This is Envinate Benje Blanco. This is Las Arenas Listan Blanco from the island of Tenerife in the Canary Islands. I am a huge fan of Envinate and what they're doing. It looks like Maayan may have some trouble connecting. I'm just going to shoot out an invite to him. Can make the connection, see how he's doing, checking on him. Hey, Maayan, how are you?
Hey, Kerry, how are you?
I'm doing well. You can hear me all right? The connection's good?
Can hear you great.
Cool, man. Well, thanks for joining us today. I know you have a lot going on. You're a busy guy in the Valley, a very talented guy, and so we very much appreciate you taking time.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, awesome. Do you have something in your glass? Are you sipping on anything today? It is Friday.
I just got back and I'm actually drinking some Sauvignon Blanc from Lapel. I usually don't like to drink my own wines during interview, but I had one in the fridge, the Lapel Sauvignon Blanc 2017, so I decided to open it up.
Cool. Well, we're definitely going to get around to talking about Lapel, so it's probably good that you have that in your glass.
Yeah.
This is a wine that I'm drinking. This is Envinate Benje Blanco. This is Las Arenas. It's Listan Blanco from Tenerife, which is one of the Canary Islands. I'm a huge fan of those wines, and there's
I
some
love the minerality in those wines. They're beautiful.
beautiful
For sure.
volcanic soils, and a really fantastic winemaking region that's coming up big right now. But we are here to talk about you, my friend. It's been such a pleasure to get to know you, coming into press all the time, and so I wanted all my followers to kind of get to know you as well. So your background's pretty unique as compared to the rest of the winemakers and vintners that I've had on, in that you are originally from Israel. And the bulk of not the bulk of it, but how you got your winemaking start was in the Israeli winemaking industry. Can you give us a little background as to your experience making wine in Israel?
Yeah, of course. I'll do it fairly quick. I mean, I have to admit, this is the first Instagram interview I'm doing, so it's pretty cool.
It's all good, yeah.
I see all these names popping out there, so it's pretty cool. So I actually, looking backwards on the historic, when I started to make wine back in '04, I actually been making wine in Napa Valley more years than I've been making wine in Israel, but or making in both places. I started in wine in 2004. I'm born and raised in Israel in the agriculture family on the Judean hills around Jerusalem. And after the army, I was traveling the world. I was spending quite a bit of time in Argentina. I fell in love with the wine. I have to admit, Mendoza I got a warm spot in my heart. I really love the place over there. Worked a little bit in a vintage. It was super fun. I see the comments too. It was super fun. And then after that, I decided to go back to Israel and study mechanical engineering. So I actually didn't went straight into wine.
Okay.
I used to do professional judo as a sport, and I used to teach kids judo, and that's how I paid for school and went to mechanical engineering. Wrote my thesis in the end about sorting grapes from all things, because I was looking more in agriculture and slowly getting older. I was only 24, but I was looking to go back to agriculture and go back to where I'm from. So I found a combination of that I really liked, which was art and science at the same time. And in '04, after finishing, I went to work for a winery in the Judean Hills under a winemaker that I really appreciate in Israel. And it was really booming in Israel in the beginning of 2000. So I didn't really invent anything. It was a lot of young people like me fell in love with wine. And the new era of wine in Israel really took place, and I started to be more involved in the industry. So '04 was my first vintage in Israel. I fell in love. and decided to stay full time under that winemaker. And I was in charge of the viticulture and enologist, assistant winemaker. We're still very close friends, obviously, and he's one of my mentors. Then I went back to school for viticulture, actually not winemaking. I did my master's there in Israel in the agriculture faculty. I'll shorten the story. I went to work for Margalit in '08. Margalit is a very famous winery in Israel.
Yeah.
I worked with Asaf and Dr. Yair Margalit, which he's a very famous chemistry winemaker. Started the first high-end boutique winery in Israel, and the wine is amazing. It's all dry farmed old vines in Israel that we farm in-house. So I had the opportunity to work for a non-kosher winery, grape to bottle, farming the vineyards, labor of love, and all the way to the winemaking. Work under a crazy professor that wrote very famous books about wine, wine chemistry and wine technology. Those are very famous books in the wine world. Then in 2010, my wife and I decided that maybe because I changed career, I didn't start it in wine immediately when I was straight out of school. So never had a chance to really travel and work in the world, around the world. And we decided to look at the opportunities of maybe working somewhere else. And Napa was one of them. I was thinking to go to UC Davis to do some more studies.
Right.
And decided, I was talking with a friend of mine that was living in Napa at the time. And he suggested that maybe I should go and do a harvest in Napa before going to UC Davis. So I said, okay, yeah, that probably makes sense before moving here. So that's how I moved to Napa to work a harvest. From a harvest, it became two harvests. And from there, we're talking right now, and we're in 2020. So that's the shortcut of the story without including the Napa part.
Right, right. Now, I feel like a lot of people may not recognize Israel as a successful commercial winemaking region, but we're talking about a region that puts out around 40 million bottles annually. We're talking about a beautiful Mediterranean climate, volcanic soils, high elevation vineyards, Cabernet Sauvignon being probably the most popular grape varietal in front of Sauvignon Blanc and Chardonnay. Now, all of those qualities I just listed off, you would think, oh, it sounds pretty similar to Napa Valley's climate and region. Would you say that there are similarities between the two?
I think there are some similarities, but definitely in the terrain. The biggest difference, maybe, if we're talking about the terroir of Napa Valley, is the weather. If we look at the climatic weather, the numbers are different. It's warmer, drier in most years. Not every year. Actually, in the last 3 years, it's been rainier in Israel than here. We've been getting a lot of rain in Israel and a lot of snowpack, but definitely there is a lot of similarity. Israel is reinventing himself because I think, like you said, the new era. I mean, they've been making wine for 7,000 years over there.
Right. Yeah.
But around 150 years ago, 200 years ago, we had the Rothschild family starting the new era of the wine. And from 1980, I would say that's when we started to boom again in the wine business, and a lot of new wineries coming up, and people really started to look at the terroir and look at the single vineyard stuff and look at the old vines that we have. And majority of them were actually Carignan, and a lot of Carignan. And then I make wine in Israel that we'll talk, but I make some Marcellan and Grenache Blanc, Syrah, Mourvèdre, so Petit Syrah. And then we do obviously Cabernet, which the easiest sell usually, and definitely whites. So, but the whites are shifting too. I mean, I'm making some old vines, French Colombard over there, which is 45 years old vines, which is really, really cool.
Awesome. So 2011, you came over and your first harvest position was at Screaming Eagle, which is a pretty prestigious place for those who know. So you spent time at Screaming Eagle, and then I think you did one harvest over at Delaval, correct?
Right. So I moved here. I was lucky enough to get into Screaming Eagle. I went back to be an intern. It was amazing.
Yeah.
I left a winemaking position, and I had my own brand running in Israel, about 1,000 cases, I would say. And I decided to switch to move to Napa, and then I just decided to start again. And I was happy to be an intern and work the harvest, and really enjoyed it. And then I ended up staying there, going for harvest, working with Andy Erickson for up in Napa Valley, and back to Screaming Eagle. And then in 2014, I joined Philippe Melka and Atelier Melka, the consulting company.
Awesome. What would you say if you were to try and think of like one of the biggest lessons you learned from working with Andy at both Delaval and Screaming Eagle, something that was maybe formative in influence you and how you are today, what would you say that would be?
You know, it's super interesting to work with winemakers like Andy Erickson, like Philippe Melka. they have so much experience and they crafted wines that became so famous. Obviously, each one of them has his own unique signature on the wines, but I think both of them are focusing on terroirs and not focusing on the wine, on the winemaking. It's about the site and the vineyard, and that was always for me the most important thing that I really connected. I think if I need to point on Andy, I think Andy is brilliant in picking decisions and crafting a fermentation. I think that was always his, for me, that's what the most I took. Obviously, I was younger. I was learning about Napa Valley, but I was really able to see and observe what he's doing, and it was impressive to see how he crafts those wines. And I think we all know his wines. His wines are incredible. So
They really are. Yeah, I love what he's doing with Fabia as well.
right, it's Fabio Sauvignon Blanc. I remember back in 2012 when we were making it. It was one of, for me, before I knew Philippe's Sauvignon Blancs, Fabia Sauvignon Blanc, and of course Screaming Eagle Sauvignon Blanc was just mind blowing of what Napa can be and what kind of Sauvignon Blanc we can craft in Napa Valley.
Yeah, the Screaming Eagle Sauvignon Blanc. That's like a unicorn. I wish I could get my hands on some for the restaurant.
Yeah, I think it's a great marketing.
Yeah, right.
It's a great wine. We can't argue about that, but it's also Screaming Eagle is just a mystery for everyone. It's just unbelievable what those guys are doing.
I know. It is a question mark, but
Right.
you know, you mentioned in 14 you transitioned over to Atelier Melka. How did you initially get hooked up with Philippe?
So it was a funny story. I was actually decided to move back home back in 14, and I
Okay.
really wanted to do one more vintage in Napa Valley. And my goal was to see somewhere else, some other place. I didn't want to stay another Harvest at Screaming. I wanted to see another place, another terroir, another style of winemaking. I have two really good friends. One is Cale Anderson. That is a winemaker in the valley, and the other one is he's not around anymore. But Cameron Voder was the winemaker at Dana Estate.
Okay.
And I was talking with both of them, and both of them mentioned Philippe name, and they said, you know, you should meet Philippe. Philippe is a super interesting guy, the way he makes wine, and I think you guys will have a good connection, and I think you should have a meeting with him to see if he has anything to offer. I was almost going to Dana to work for the harvest and move back because I really liked Cameron over there. So Cameron set me up with a meeting with Philippe, and I was having lunch with Philippe. I remember I had coffee with Philippe in Saint Helena for the first time, and it was really interesting conversation. I don't know if you ever met Philippe, but Philippe is the most humble, simple guy in the world. With all his success, I don't think he ever changed. And it was a great conversation about family, about home, about us as foreigners in the United States. And we never talked about business. We never talked about even not wine, to be honest. And after the meeting, we say goodbyes, and he reached out again after a few weeks, for a couple of weeks, and we met again, and we started to talk about wine and wine style, what I'm looking, and I wasn't sure what I'm looking because I wanted to just to do one harvest and go back home. So Philippe offered to join his team for a harvest, and we had an agreement that in the end of the harvest, I'm going to move back home. And that was it. So I joined the harvest, the Atelier Melka team in 14, around April. And the team was, there was three other people on the team back then. And it was great. I was working, I felt like in one harvest, I learned more than I learned in 10 years. It was just mind blowing what the company is doing and working in multiple facilities, looking on different terroirs, different crafting of style of winemaking. And I was blown away, honestly. I was really blown away.
Yeah. For those who don't know, I mean, Atelier Melka is not just a custom crush, right? You guys are a full service
So we
operation.
actually, we don't have a custom crush. For
It's
us,
not a custom crush.
no. Atelier Melka is Philippe's philosophy from the beginning was Atelier Melka will be a consulting wine company and not a consulting winemaker. So we give
Okay.
services and we consult on the wine side, the estate side, vineyard side, estate winery, or making your wine in a custom crush. But we craft the model for each of the brands. So we'll find the right place that we feel like it's the right place to make the wine for the brand, and the right vineyards if it's not an estate wine, and we'll just work with the client to make sure that we're able to tell his story in the brand.
Right. And so as of right now, you are director of winemaking for what I consider a pretty big operation in the valley. What does a regular day look like for you? Not in right now with
Yeah,
COVID, but yeah,
yeah. So COVID, pre-COVID or post-COVID? So
pre-COVID.
pre-COVID. So I think we can talk about post-COVID as well because it's very interesting to see how we
Yeah.
adjust and be able to keep the operation going. But you know, I think we are smaller than what people think. People has this idea that we are making million wines, which we are not. We are very focusing on around 20 brands that are very high-end brands. We're crafting very high-end wines, and we don't. And I think that's Philippe's philosophy from the beginning. We are focusing always the wine come first. We don't cut corners, and we make the best wine possible, and we'll figure out how to do it. My usual day, I have a great team, and of course, Philippe is directing above everyone. And the idea for us is the winemakers are individual winemakers. They all can be running estates, but we work as a team and collaborate. We have an associate winemaker that managing the day-to-day, Tori Cusick, and so we overlook production about 6 different custom crushes, and we have the clients there. But we do everything in-house. So if we send the work order, we'll follow up at the winery. We'll make sure the execution is to the level we're expecting. The last month, we were putting barrel orders, getting ready for harvest, visiting the vineyards, working with the farmers on a weekly basis, and just getting ready for harvest, I guess.
Awesome. As we're talking with Maayan Koschitzky, Director of Winemaking over at Atelier Milka and proprietor of several other labels. If you have questions for Maayan, feel free to utilize the question box at the bottom of your screen. We'll do our best to answer those towards the end of the conversation. Maayan, you recently posted on social media the photo of Robin Leal on the cover of Wine Spectator, and said that it was such a pleasure. It has been such a pleasure working with her over the last few years. Why has that experience been such an important one for you?
I think it's definitely a unique one. For me to be part of such a great company like Atelier Melka, it's already a privilege. And Philippe has been doing it for 25 years. I've been working with him for 6 now. But Robin Leal, for me, Robin Leal is the story of Napa Valley, the history of her family in the valley, and you need to get her. People that don't know her, she's so approachable. She has such a great story. She's such a smart person and a mentor for me. And I've been having a lot of conversations with her. We are in pretty much daily exchange of texts or emails. And on her birthday, which was not too long ago, it was for her. She was celebrating 80 years old. She's 80, which is amazing, and been born and raised in the valley to a wine family. Yeah. And on top of that, getting the cover of the Wine Spectator to share her family story and the new era of wine that is finally, it's her history, it's her story. For me, it was very important, and I'm so proud to be part of it. And we've been getting a lot of success with Leal wines, and I think the wines are incredible. But for me, it's more about her and her story that finally it will be there for forever. It's not only about John Daniel and Inglenook. It's also about Robin Leal and Robin Leal's history.
For sure. Well said. Yeah, we love serving her as a guest in the restaurant. She's one of those guests that is not afraid to tell you how it is. If
right.
You know what I mean.
Yeah. Same with the winemaking, by the way.
Yes, I'm sure in all aspects of life. You work pretty closely with a gentleman named Pete Richmond. Pete is the owner of Silverado Farming. How did you meet Pete?
So, I think part of working with Atelier Melka, we have the incredible opportunity to work with almost every farming company in Napa Valley and Sonoma and around California in general. Yeah. And we meet great people. we're lucky to meet a lot of great farmers and farming companies that we work. And it's not only Silverado Farming, but also Silverado Farming. But I became really close friend with Miguel Luna, who is a partner in Silverado Farming and the head viticulture for the company. And slowly I became a good friend with Miguel and with Pete as well. And I've been really connected with him and heard a lot of stories from him and been using him as a mentor and for any advice I need. The guy started from being a viticulturalist, came to the valley, built an amazing farming company. But it's not only about farming, it's also about the community. And that's the one thing that for me always, Silverado Farming is such an important company for the industry and for Napa Valley. They're always involved in the community. Pete is so involved in every organization, and whenever he can donate, he will donate back. And it was for me, it's very important. So I felt very connected to their story and to their philosophy.
Yeah, I'll never forget. You hit it on the head with his generosity. He was in the restaurant one night and he saw this couple enjoying a bottle of Lapel, and he picked up the tab for their dinner. And wow. It was one of the most generous things I've ever seen. And I'm sure Pete, that's probably par on the course for him and his personality.
Absolutely. So. And with his employees as well, and especially during now with what's happening with the COVID, and we know, all of us are struggling, and we're all trying to adjust to the new era, I guess. And he still is not slowing down. I was with him this afternoon, visiting a vineyard and talking about the whole organization and what they are doing and how we can help
Yeah.
and anything else. We're donating wine for the auctions. Scale is doing for the restaurant employees. So of course we're a part of it and helping as well. So I mean, that's the philosophy, life philosophy, and I think we all share it.
That's awesome. Yeah, so in 2016, you start your own label in collaboration with Pete and Miguel, right?
Right.
And you launched in 2016. It's called Lapel. Can you tell us a little bit about that project?
Yeah, so part of working with Philippe was I felt really good where I am, and I felt like I'm part of something that I want to stay for a while and keep developing it. But I also wanted to have a little something of my own and share my own story and my own winemaking and not just work for Atelier Melka. So in 16 we started a brand called Lapel Wines, and Lapel in French means shovel, and the shovel. And the reason we chose the name was because we all Silverado are farmers. I'm a winemaker. This is a work of love, and the shovel represents us very well. It's the tool that we dig the soil to plant the vine, but it's also the tool that we are digging the grapes out of the tank when they're finishing fermentation and switching to the aging part in the barrel.
Yeah.
So that was the whole brand and the whole story. Actually, Miguel came up with the name. Miguel was working a harvest in Bordeaux, and he was digging tanks like no tomorrow. And the joke was that one day he will go back to United States and we'll start a brand called the Shovel, because that's what the only thing he was doing is shoveling tanks. So that's kind of how the name came up. And we have very simple philosophy. We're only making wines from vineyards that we farm or own, and that's the collaboration with Silverado Farming. So for us, everything we do is about the vineyard and the winemaking, grape to bottle. We don't purchase fruit from outside. We purchase fruit from vineyards that we farm and have 100% control, and we've been loyal to that from day one. We're sourcing from 6 different vineyards now. Our main focus is definitely organic vineyards. That's part of, we believe that that's the future. Some of them are dry farmed, some of them we are converting to dry farm, and it's been great. We're making a Sauvignon Blanc that I'm drinking here, and then we are making Napa Valley Cabernet, and we're making a reserve wine. And next year we're going to introduce a single vineyard series, which will tell the story of the sites we're working with.
That'll be with the 18 vintage.
Yeah, so the 18 vintage will have the single vineyards as the first release, and the last label that is going to be added to this program is something really cool that we are super excited. We have been making a Chardonnay.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so the Chardonnay is coming from Bianacido, and Pete Richmond's first job was to manage the vineyards for Miller family, the Bianacido family.
Okay.
And when we started to think about making a Chardonnay, we were like, wow, this will be a great connection to our brand, because that's like the history of who we are, and we're looking to the future. And when the Miller family heard that we want to make Chardonnay, they were so excited that they decided to share the I block with us. So we're getting the oldest block on the property, which is 1971 own rooted. And we're making it a very unique style, a little bit like our Sauvignon Blanc. So very crisp, sharp, with a longer aging in barrels, and very fresh and fun wine. So
Awesome.
that should be the last label, and I hope that that's it. That will be it.
Okay. I was gonna
Yeah,
say, I mean, you do a lot already, man. So I don't, how
I
much
know,
is
but
too much?
yeah, I know. But I think the idea is to build a kind of a pyramid of winemaking, of a main blend that tells the story of the brand. That's our Napa Valley Cabernet. I think
Yeah.
we are over delivering for the price point, making a beautiful wine that is just fun to drink at the price point that is more affordable. And on the top, we'll have the reserve, which is always the best of the best. And then we have the single vineyards to share, to tell the specific story of the terroir we are working with and the vineyards we farm. And so that's kind of the red wines, and then the Sauvignon Blanc and the Chardonnay. So
Awesome.
that's
And
hopefully
you
will be
also
it.
do Brilliant Mistake. Are you just the winemaker for Brilliant Mistake, or do you have shares in that as well?
No, I've been a partner with them and working with them for 5 years now. So
Hmm.
actually from first vintage, it was Rebecca Weinberg from Quintessa, and then I took over in 14. Yeah.
Awesome.
uh, and helping them since then. And honestly, we are more like family than anything else. We're very close friends, and we're doing all of that together. And it's a collaboration. It's fairly small. We're doing a few hundred cases, and it's been heavy direct to consumer and
Yeah.
been getting a lot of success. And John and Stacy has a great story, so I think they know how to share their story very well.
Awesome. I heard one winemaker say the easy part is making the wine, the hard part is selling it. but your wines seem to sell pretty well. Would you agree with that statement, or can you tell us your thoughts on that?
Well, I would say yes, I agree with the statement, but I think for us as winemakers, obviously, it looks like it's easy to make wine. Uh, we make wine in the vineyard, and I think that's a sentence that we all like to say, and it sounds really good, but it's the truth. I mean, we grow the grapes. Without great grapes, we can't make great wine. And once the grapes are at the winery, we do our best not to screw it, and make capture the what we get from the vineyard and make great wine. I think that's the philosophy from the beginning for what I'm doing with Atelier Melco, what I'm doing on my own. And but selling wine is hard, I can tell you. I mean, even if Lapel looks like it's a great success, it doesn't matter. I mean, it's so much work. It's hand sell, box after box, and it takes time, and it's a lot of work and relationships, and it's not all about the wine. You build a lot of relationships and friendships, and you have to find space and time in your life to maintain them and to work for them, and really share the story that what are you doing. I mean, there's so many great wines out there that you have to share and transfer the story and be able to reach to the client and tell your story. So you catch him in your portfolio, you catch him in your club, and he's excited about the wines and he understands what you're trying to achieve. So it's been a lot of work, and luckily for now, Lapel has been a great success and the wines have been selling well. But it doesn't mean that it's going to be great next year. I mean, we're working out every year, trying to over deliver on the price point, try to make great wines, but keep working hard to share the story, to be innovative, and to keep building the list, but be in touch with the list all the time.
Awesome, man. Well, we love you at Press, and the wines are fantastic. We'll
Thank you.
continue to support them and continue to sell them because the quality is very much there. You mentioned some difficulties and obstacles post-COVID. Can you elaborate on what kind of difficulties and obstacles you're facing now, especially you with so much going on between Atelier, Lapel, Brilliant Mistake? I mean, how are you navigating the waters in Napa Valley right now?
It's been the biggest challenge for us is obviously the unknown, because we can't see the COVID, but we also don't know when it's going to end and how it's going to look like in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or 6 weeks. I was just having a conversation with Philippe today about even flying. I mean, we don't know if we will be able to fly before the end of the year, so we really have to figure out how to adjust on our winemaking. We've been doing much more phone calls, much more Zoom live conversations, and I think the first thing for us was health. We wanted to make sure that everyone is healthy, no one is taking risks that are unneeded. So the first 2 3 weeks, we really been very very cautious and trying to limit any wine work. And even if this custom crush, we're not doing the work. We don't want them to risk their families and they risk their lives. So the first few weeks we adjusted as fast as I can with topping, sulfuring, and then stabilizing the wines and making sure they can stay in barrels for a few weeks without touching them. Then I think 2 3 weeks later, we started to get the feel of what's going on, how it's going to look like for the next few weeks. We don't know when it's going to end, but at least we have a good feeling of how it's going to look like in the next 3 to 4 weeks.
Right.
So we had to react and starting to put very serious protocols about, for example, we have a bottling next week and we had one last week, which we had to be very careful and understand how do we don't break the law first, because we have to follow the law, but then also how do we make sure that everyone is healthy, the health of the wine, but the health of the people, and for us as well, for our team. So we came up with a lot of protocols, a lot of sanitation protocol, making sure that everyone is following it, making sure we're not taking any risks that are unnecessary. And I think we've been doing quite well. I think we're able to be on top of it as much as we can. We adjusted on some of the winemaking as needed, and we're pulling much more samples and tasting at the office instead of tasting in the barrel room, just so there is less people at the wineries. For Atelier Melka team, half of the team is not working from the office, just so we don't, if one of us will get sick, the other half can still operate and doesn't need to stay home for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So we've been putting all kind of protocols like that, and it's been challenging for sure, but we're able to continue and we're on schedule for now.
Awesome. Guys, we are talking with Maayan Koschitzky, Director of Winemaking over at Atelier Melka and proprietor of Lapel Cabernet Sauvignon and Sauvignon Blanc. Maayan, we very much appreciate your time. Do we have time for questions? Are you good on time right now?
I'm good. Yeah, well, no problem.
Awesome. We have one question here. A question about the Israel wine country. Which part of Israel is the wine country?
So historically, there's a few wine regions in Israel. The most famous ones are up north, which is Upper Galilee and Golan Heights. Golan Heights is a much heavier basilic soil, so a lot of tufa goes from about sea level, and it will climb up all the way to about 4,000 feet, 5,000 feet, so fairly high elevation. And then Upper Galilee is more of a terra rossa style soils, and will go also to about 6,000 foot elevation feet elevation. And then the other main region that is important is the Judean Hills, which is the mountains around Jerusalem, which carry much more terra rossa and limestone.
Okay.
And there's very famous wineries around there. It's actually a forest. It's a big forest around Jerusalem. It's always funny to talk about Israel because everyone assumes that Israel is a desert, and that's what's been my conversation since I moved here. Every time I actually remember Nigis Lasson is the winemaker at Screaming. For years he was arguing with me, telling me, "Stop lying! It's all desert." So I had to buy a book, and I came back from Israel one day with a book of pictures of Israel to show him that there's a lot of green in Israel actually. So
Yeah.
the south side of Israel is desert, but the middle of the country and the north is actually very green, and there's rivers going down to the Sea of Galilee, and so those are the main areas. There are vineyards today on the south of Israel, on the plateau of the desert, which is high elevation, so the nights are cold. We have some challenges with salty soils over there that we are adjusting with farming and irrigation protocols, but those are the main regions.
Awesome. And you have projects going on there right now, do you?
Yeah, I have my own brand over there that I've been started in '08, and it's a Mediterranean focus. And I have a full-time winemaker and a full team and a GM and operation. But I've been involved with that, and that's been great. I mean, it's always it was important for me that if I'm staying here, I want to stay connected to to home and the home industry, and be part of what we're doing in Israel as part of the wine industry. So I've been focusing on a lot of Mediterranean varieties over there. Yes.
Yeah. And you make it over there several times a year, I guess. You're over
Yeah,
there.
I go. I used to go a little bit more. Now I'm going a little less, about twice a year, 3 times a year for a week. I'll go once a year with the family, so I'll spend a little bit more time.
Right.
Not right now because we can't travel, but usually that's my schedule.
Right. And so I was doing some reading on the Eastern Mediterranean yesterday. A lot of good Rhone varietals there, Petit Verdot as well. And then you have these indigenous varietals, Marari, Gendali, and Butini. Are those coming a little bit more into popularity, or are they still a little less?
So I think Israel was trying to figure out how can they be unique, right? Like Greece, wine of Greece. No one knew about Greece until 6 years ago or 7 years ago, and suddenly it became so trendy, and everyone wants to drink Asertico. And wine of Greece is amazing. And
Yeah.
I've been drinking wines of Greece from since I'm a kid because they're close to Israel. But I feel like in the U.S. now it's suddenly become such a big trend, and so Israel was looking at the same. It's like, okay, Argentina is famous for Malbec, and Greece has its own varieties, so no one can compete. Can Israel beat that? Can we develop our own varieties
Yeah.
that will tell a different story? I have to admit, between us, the wines from those varieties are not amazing. Some of them are actually table grapes. They're historic table grapes, and they're not good as table grapes too. So we're trying to make wine out of them. They're very interesting for us as wine lovers. It's great to taste. I mean, it's fun, it's interesting, and it's really intriguing to taste. But I don't think for now that those will be the wines that will tell the Israeli story. I still believe that the Israeli story is Mediterranean varieties.
Awesome. Well, Maayan, I don't want to take up any more of your time. You've been really amazing, and I appreciate you coming on and talking to us. I hope you stay safe, stay healthy, keep doing what you're doing. And as soon as this thing's over, we'll see you at press, hopefully, and raise a glass to you, sir.
Absolutely. Stay safe, and thanks for everyone for joining us today.
Thank you so much, man. Have a good one. I'll see you soon.
You too. Bye.
Bye. All right, that was Maayan Koschitzky. Maayan's a really great guy, native of Israel, and now is somewhat of a rock star here in Napa Valley. And so we're really excited that he was able to join us today. Today's Friday, and tomorrow is Champagne Saturday. I was fortunate enough to be joined by Amanda McCrossan last week, and we'll have another special guest joining us tomorrow. So be sure to tune in tomorrow, and I will make that announcement as to who will be joining us. All right, guys, stay safe, stay healthy, and I will see you soon. Cheers.